My dog found a wounded alien vampire woman in the woods. She was the queen of a galaxy. The leash snapped. 1 second Ryan was clutching it while Thor growled at a squirrel with the enthusiasm of a caffeine-fueled lumberjack. And the next, the dog launched himself into the underbrush, like he just remembered he left the oven on in 1987. "Thor! You absolute four-legged traitor!" Ryan plunged into the forest behind him, crashing through brambles, nearly tripping over a rock that looked suspiciously like it had been judging him since the Jurassic period. He hadn't wanted to be out here to begin with. Forest hikes at night were for serial killers, lost tourists, and cryptids with poor decision-making skills. But Thor had insisted, not with words. Ryan hadn't completely lost it, but with that mix of whining and head-tilting that made him feel like the world's worst pet parent if he said no. Leaves slapped him in the face. A branch smacked his shin. He was bleeding somewhere. Probably. His body was just one large ow at this point, and then Thor barked. Not the usual bark he used when chasing squirrels or neighborhood raccoons with personal vendettas. This was a sharp, frantic bark, like he'd cornered something he didn't quite understand, or maybe something that was cornering him. Ryan stopped. His breath came in hot clouds. The forest suddenly felt thicker, like the trees were leaning in to eavesdrop. He followed the sound, pushing past a curtain of moss and half expecting to find a bear, or worse, a naked yoga cult. Instead, he found Thor, standing very still beside a crumpled figure beneath a tangle of cedar roots. She looked like a woman. Sort of. A tall, impossibly still woman, dressed in tattered black fabric that shimmered faintly under the moonlight, like silk dipped in oil. Blood, dark, almost blue, soaked her side. Her hood was half down, revealing silver hair that curled like smoke. Her skin was too pale, her features too sharp, and her ears, long, graceful arcs, peeked from her hair like crescent blades. Ryan opened his mouth to say something helpful or heroic or maybe just coherent. She opened her eyes. Silver, reflective. Not like human eyes at all, more like someone had taken 2 small galaxies and tucked them into her skull. He swallowed. Hi, did you fall? Are you? I am dying, she said. Her voice was soft but carried like a bell in deep water. Ryan blinked. Okay, wow, that's direct. Most people start with, I need help, or call an ambulance. But sure, let's start big. She tried to move, then winced. Thor whimpered and nudged her arm with his snout. Loyal creature, she murmured, reaching out to stroke his fur. Her fingers shook. He sensed me, even through the field. Animals always know. Ryan crouched beside her, still unsure if he was in a dream, hallucination, or a very elaborate prank show. You want me to call someone? No. An ambulance? No. A, spaceship? That got a flicker of a smile from her. Too late for that. He stared at her. The ears, the blood, the metallic scent in the air, the weird static tingling in his fingertips. This wasn't cosplay. This wasn't a weird forest hermit. This was something else. I don't know who you are, lady, but you're bleeding a lot, and this is Oregon, so the ER is like 15 minutes away, and I am Valira, she interrupted, pushing herself up with surprising speed before promptly wobbling and nearly face-planting into a fern. Queen of the Andros Galactic Corps, First Blood Sovereign of the Hemivore Dynasties, Exile of the Crimson War, betrayed, hunted, and very, very tired. There was a beat of silence. Then Ryan said, okay, cool. And I'm Ryan. I drive a Honda, work in tech support, and once cried watching Wall-E. So now that we're sharing, she laughed, not a full laugh, more of a weak, amused exhale. You mock me. No, wait, Hemivore? That's like vampire, right? You're a vampire? She tilted her head. Do you consume plant matter as a primary fuel source? Me? Number mostly carbs and pizza, and a lot of regrets. Then by your logic, yes, I am a vampire. Oh, great, good, forest vampires. I knew it was a mistake coming out tonight. Should have stayed home and binged space documentaries like a normal person. She leaned forward suddenly, clutching his jacket. Her fingers were cold. Her eyes burned. You must hide me. I'm being tracked. There are eyes above, watchers cloaked in time warp veils. I escaped through the event horizon of a minor gravity well. My ship is lost. I am vulnerable. Ryan blinked twice. Cool, cool. Just so I'm clear, this isn't like code for something? You're not just really high and think you're from space. I am from space, she snapped, before swaying and slumping against him again. And soon they will come, to finish me. And what? Blow up Earth because you crashed your vampire mobile here? If they find me before I recover, she said, her voice fading, they'll glass this entire quadrant. Burn it clean. No witnesses, not even the ants. Ryan looked at Thor, who gave a half-hearted wag. Like, don't look at me, man. I just chase squirrels. Why me? Ryan asked. Why trust me? She looked up at him with those impossible eyes. Because you didn't run. I think I'm still in shock. Shock is useful, keeps the blood cold. That's disturbing. Then she collapsed into his arms. Ryan sat there, holding an alien vampire queen, while his dog licked her face like he'd discovered a new chew toy. Somewhere above, the stars shifted, like they'd noticed something, like they were waiting. He muttered to himself, Okay, Ryan, you've officially lost it. You're talking to forest vampires. You're hugging intergalactic royalty. You're going to get vaporized by someone with a cool name like Admiral Deathniffe. Thor barked once, tail wagging. Ryan sighed. Fine, we'll take her home. But if she eats my neighbor, we're not burying the body. The forest didn't answer, but the wind sounded suspiciously like it was laughing. Valira woke up screaming. It wasn't loud. Not the kind of scream that shattered windows or summoned concerned neighbors. It was tight, choked, barely human, a sound more felt than heard, like space tearing at the edges of reality. Ryan dropped his coffee mug. Thor barked like he'd just seen a mailman from Mars. She shot upright on his couch, eyes wide and glowing faintly, silver and sharp. For a second, he thought she was about to vaporize his living room with a thought. She scanned the room like a predator trying to decide which object to throw through a wall first. Her breathing was ragged. Then, without warning, she grabbed a throw pillow and hurled it at his lava lamp. It bounced off harmlessly. Feel better? Ryan asked from what he hoped was a safe distance behind the kitchen island. She blinked. Somewhat. That's good. Glad we're using soft furnishings for our interstellar tantrums. She looked down at the pillow like she hadn't realized she'd thrown it. My apologies, the dream memory loop was corrupted. I saw my sister. Before the betrayal, her eyes were kind. Ryan nodded, pretending he totally understood. Yeah, I also have dreams that turn into space soap operas, usually after too much pizza. She didn't smile. She looked at the couch cushion like it had insulted her lineage. This dwelling? Is this your royal chamber? He nearly choked on his cereal. This is my living room. That's a futon. That shelf over there is not a weapons rack, it's a DVD tower. And that thing you mistook for a galactic mind crystal? That's just a snow globe. Valira tilted her head. Then where do you conduct your rituals? I mean, shower, coffee, panic. That's my usual morning ritual order. She stood, still swaying slightly, and surveyed the room again, her long ears twitching. Primitive, but not without charm. This popcorn ceiling, is that a defensive measure? It's a bad decision made in the 80s, kind of like parachute pants. Thor wandered over and dropped a tennis ball at Valira's feet. She stared at it like it might explode. He wagged his tail expectantly. He wishes to test me, she murmured. Challenge accepted. Ryan watched as she picked up the ball, examined it as though it might contain a tiny nuclear core, and then hurled it with such supernatural strength that it rocketed through the window, shattered the glass, ricocheted off a neighbor's bird feeder, and vanished into the treetops with a noise that could only be described as whumph. Thor looked delighted. Ryan, not so much. That was a custom double-pane energy efficient. I have destroyed your enemy portal, she said, deadpan. That was a window. A weak point in your perimeter. You're welcome. He sighed and started picking glass off the carpet. Valira sat again, folding herself in a way that seemed too elegant for a being who just launched a tennis ball into orbit. She winced as her hand touched her side. You're still bleeding, he said, hurrying over with the first aid kit. Or leaking starlight, or whatever the technical term is. I've closed the wound internally, she said, but the solarite residue lingers. It burns. Slows regeneration. I need time. Solarite? Right. Totally normal thing to have in a suburban forest. Did you anger a cosmic miners' union or something? She didn't answer. Her face was drawn, pale in a way that made even her unnatural skin tone look ghost-like. Her eyes dimmed a little. Ryan opened the kit and started awkwardly applying more gauze. I know this isn't your Imperial medbay or whatever, but I watched a whole season of Emergency Vets, so I figure I'm at least 50% qualified. She looked down at his hands, then at the roll of gauze, then back at his hands. You're trembling. I'm sitting in my house bandaging an alien vampire queen who eats peanut butter by the spoonful and shatters my windows playing fetch. Of course I'm trembling. Her lips twitched, the closest she'd come to a smile since she'd woken up. I owe you, she said quietly. You've risked much, Earthman. Call me Ryan, and yeah, I'm racking up karma points I can't even spend. She reached into the folds of her cloak and pulled something out, something small and metallic, shaped like a coin but etched with symbols that shifted when he tried to focus on them. A blood oath token, she said, placing it in his palm, to bind favor. If I die, you may claim vengeance in my name. Ryan stared at the token. You couldn't have just written me a nice thank you card? Different cultures, different customs. Fair enough. Do I have to do anything with this, or is it like a cosmic frequent flyer card? Just don't sell it. The last man who tried woke up as a chair. There was a knock on the door. They both froze. Ryan whispered, I wasn't expecting anyone. Scan them, she said. Now. I don't have a scanner. She sighed, raised a hand, and a tiny beam of light shot from the ring on her finger, passing through the wall like it wasn't even there. She frowned. 2 life forms, one with erratic biochemistry, likely synthetic augmentation. The other is carrying a device capable of disrupting electromagnetic fields. Great. RoboCop and company. Should I hide or offer snacks? Valira stood. Let me handle them. Ryan blinked. You're still half dead. I'm mostly not. Before he could protest, she reached for the doorknob with a fluid grace that said she'd done this 1,000 times. In castles and warships and probably a few interdimensional diplomatic incidents. She opened the door. The 2 men standing there looked like off-brand government agents. One wore a too-tight suit and dark glasses. The other was chewing gum like it owed him money. Hi there, said the first. We're with the Bureau of Atmospheric Phenomena. Mind if we ask a few questions? Valera smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Of course, she said. But first, would you care for some tea? Ryan watched from behind the couch, whispering to Thor, This is fine. Everything's fine. Just your typical Thursday with space vampires and possible men in black. Thor farted softly in agreement. Ryan nodded. Exactly. The tea was not tea. Valera placed the cups on the table with an elegance that made Ryan nervous. The 2 agents accepted them without blinking. The man in the too-tight suit gave a quick nod, while the gum chewer eyed his drink like it might try to flirt with him. Ryan watched from the kitchen, arms folded, whispering to Thor, Tell me again why I haven't run screaming into the woods yet? Thor licked his paw and looked unimpressed. Right, because I'm the kind of guy who invites vampire queens into my house and lets them serve dimensional black ops their own doom in a mug labeled World's Best Dad. Cool, good choices all around. Valira sat across from the agents with one leg crossed, calm and poised, like she wasn't leaking starlight out of a wound in her side and hiding a centuries-old blood vendetta behind her impeccable posture. The suit guy cleared his throat. We picked up a spatial anomaly near this location. Something tore a hole the size of a minivan through the quantum veil and then slammed it shut like it owed someone rent. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? Valira sipped her not tea. You are mistaken. I have been here enjoying the local customs. This man, Ryan is it, was kind enough to introduce me to cheese in a can and something called reality television, a truly harrowing cultural experience. Ryan coughed. We also watched Interstellar. She cried at the bookshelf part. Because it was a paradox of linear emotion and temporal causality, she said coolly. Not because of Matthew McConaughey. The gum chewer narrowed his eyes. You're not from around here, are you? Valera turned her head, slowly. What gave me away? My accent? He pointed at her ears. Those things don't exactly say Wisconsin. Ryan cut in. She's in a LARP group. Very dedicated. We're working on a short film. Real indie stuff. You know how it is. The suit leaned forward. We're not here to break up your live-action soap opera, Mr. Tech Support. But what landed in those woods? And why did 3 satellites lose power for exactly 47 seconds the moment it happened? Valera smiled slightly. Perhaps your satellites need better shielding. Perhaps you're hiding a fugitive, Gum Chewer snapped. Perhaps you're chewing like your jaw's trying to escape your face, Ryan muttered. Both agents turned to him. He threw up his hands. Hey, I'm just the guy with the couch and the Wi-Fi. If anything alien landed out there, it probably took one look at Oregon and decided to head for LA. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Even Thor had stopped licking the rug, which was his usual method of tension diffusion. Then the suit's wrist started blinking red. He looked down, frowned, tapped it, and went pale. We need to go, he said, rising. Gum Chewer frowned. What is it? Level 6 Echo Surge, 4 clicks north. Valera stood too. Her expression darkened. They found me. Suit guy narrowed his eyes. Who found you? But she was already moving. She reached into her cloak, where she kept pulling things from, Ryan still didn't understand, and retrieved a thin, glimmering rod. With a flick, it extended into a full staff that hummed like an angry lightsaber had just taken a yoga class. Hey, Ryan called. No violence in the living room. I just had the carpet cleaned. Valera's voice dropped. You will want to leave now, both of you. The suit hesitated. Then he nodded. You're not the threat we came looking for, are you? No, she said. But they are. Gum Chewer scoffed. We don't run from spooks. A pulse hit the house. Not a noise, not light, just pressure. Every glass in the cabinet shattered. The power cut out. Ryan's microwave screamed in binary and then died. Run, Valera hissed. The agents obeyed. Ryan, who had been gripping a banana like it was a weapon, followed them to the front lawn. Above, the sky rippled like oil on water. A shape emerged from the clouds. No engines, no lights. Just silence and geometry that hurt the eyes. Ryan pointed. That thing is definitely not from NASA. Valera stepped out onto the lawn, cloak snapping in the sudden wind. She spun her staff and drove it into the grass. Lines of light spread from it, tracing a glowing circle with symbols that looked like they belonged on an ancient monolith or maybe a really intense rave poster. Ryan edged toward her. You're doing magic now? Science, she said. Your species hasn't caught up yet. Is this a shield? A weapon? It's a request, she said. For what? Assistance. The ship above them shimmered, then dropped something. A long metallic shape that pulsed with red light and hit the ground with the subtlety of a dropped piano. The dirt cracked. The shape unfolded. A mechanical, 7 feet tall, insectile, humming with energy. It looked at Valera. She looked back. Then it laughed. A buzzing, glitching sound. Valera of Andros, you are far from your throne. I no longer need a throne, she said, lifting her staff. I have a couch. Ryan whispered, that's almost cool, until you realize how sad it sounds. The mech stepped forward. The grass beneath it died instantly. Return the core, and we will make your death artistic. She raised her hand. The blood oath token pulsed in Ryan's pocket. He swore he felt his teeth vibrate. I don't think she's returning anything, Ryan called out. Also, maybe take your threats to Yelp. We're all full on doom today. The mech raised a cannon arm. Valera moved. The light from her staff bent, twisted. A beam shot upward and hit the cannon before it could fire. The mech staggered. The grass exploded. Thor ran in circles, barking like it was squirrel apocalypse. Ryan dove behind the mailbox. Yup, totally normal Thursday. And then, in the middle of all that chaos, she looked at him and said, "Get in the car." He blinked. "We're fleeing in a Honda Civic?" She nodded. He grinned. Finally, a mission worthy of this machine. The Civic peeled out with a screech seconds later. Thor in the back seat, Valira holding the staff across her lap, and Ryan white-knuckling the wheel. Behind them, the mech exploded. The blast turned the lawn to glass and shorted out 3 more satellites. The agents were nowhere to be seen. Ryan panted. "I think I just lost my deposit." Valira adjusted her cloak. "You don't own the house, do you?" "Nope." She leaned back, her voice quiet. "Then what you lost wasn't your deposit. It was your anonymity." Ryan gulped. "That sounds bad." "It is," she said. "You're in the war now." He glanced at her, then at Thor, then at the road stretching into darkness. "Can we at least stop for tacos first?" She looked at him. He swore. For just a second, she smiled. The taco place was closed. This fact, among many others, confirmed for Ryan that the universe was not only vast, cold, and indifferent, but also had a petty sense of humor. The sign read "closed due to unforeseen circumstances," which probably meant someone had spilled salsa into a fusion reactor again, or maybe someone in the kitchen got abducted mid-burrito. Ryan stared at the sign and muttered, "Unforeseen? Oh, I foresaw this. This is the kind of day that ends in a taco betrayal." Valira stood beside him, silent and still, her long ears twitching as she scanned the parking lot, like it might suddenly erupt into a battle between rival food trucks. Thor peed on a planter in protest. "We could try the gas station," Ryan offered weakly. "They've got those hot dogs that spin forever. Practically a religious experience." Valira didn't respond. Her silver eyes were locked on the sky. "They won't wait long," she said finally. "Not after that display." "You mean the exploding mech, or the light show you did that made my mailbox stop existing in 4 dimensions?" "Both. And worse is coming." Ryan ran a hand through his hair. "Well, great, because I was really hoping my week would include intergalactic manhunts and becoming an accessory to cosmic regicide." Valira's gaze flicked to him. "You don't need to stay with me, Ryan." "Lady, my house is a crater. My couch is probably smoldering in the neighbor's yard, and I'm driving around with a vampire queen, a glowing murder stick, and a dog that now howls at satellites. I think I've crossed the I'm in threshold." She studied him for a moment, and then, to his eternal surprise, said, "Good." They got back in the Civic, which was now officially the most important ship in the galaxy as far as Ryan was concerned. Its back seat smelled faintly of fries and destiny. Valira took the passenger seat like it was a throne, staff across her lap, cloak slightly singed at the edges. Thor curled up and snored like nothing in the world could interrupt his nap unless it involved squirrels or Armageddon. "So," Ryan asked as they pulled out onto the highway, "are we running somewhere specific or just driving until we find the next closed fast food place?" "There's a relay," she said. "Old, forgotten, left behind when your planet was still mostly ocean and dinosaurs. I can use it to contact my allies, if any remain." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You've got a space pager buried in the woods somewhere?" "It's encoded into the mantle, hidden beneath layers of tectonic misdirection, a thing even your deepest drills couldn't reach. And the entrance is a Denny's." Ryan blinked. "You're kidding." "I'm not." They drove in silence for a few minutes. Then Ryan muttered, "Of course it's a Denny's." When they arrived, it looked like any other roadside Denny's. Fluorescent lights buzzing, a lone truck parked out front, the smell of ancient grease thick enough to register on a Geiger counter. Valira led the way inside, her presence drawing a few confused looks from the 2 waitresses and the short-order cook, who clearly hadn't blinked since 1993. They were seated in a booth with peeling vinyl, a view of a jukebox that hadn't worked since Reagan, and a menu laminated in what might have been carbonite. "Are you going to order something?" Ryan asked. "Or are we just going to sit here until the Grand Slam melts the time barrier?" Valira slid her staff under the table, pressed her palm against the surface, and whispered something that made the lights flicker. A dull chime rang from below. Ryan gawked. "Did you just hack a table?" "Your furniture is less secure than your satellite," she said. "I feel like you've insulted both my government and this establishment in one sentence." A hidden hatch popped open beneath the table. It led down into darkness. Ryan peered into the hole. "Is this OSHA compliant?" Valira dropped in without a word. Thor followed her like this was the most natural thing in the world. Ryan sighed, looked at the waitress, who was now too busy watching a soap opera on her phone to care, and muttered, "Well, if I die in a Denny's basement, tell the tabloids I died as I lived, full of poor life choices." The tunnel was cold, not just temperature cold, space cold, the kind that smelled like ozone and forgotten empires. They descended through what looked like stone at first, then metal, then something that shimmered between states depending on how Ryan blinked. The relay chamber opened like the iris of an eye. It pulsed gently with a heartbeat he could feel in his fillings. Valira stepped forward, placed her hand on a floating disk of liquid light, and said something in a language that made Ryan's nose bleed. The relay flickered. Nothing. She tried again. Her voice was softer this time. Desperate. Still nothing. Ryan watched her shoulders slump. The glow from the relay dimmed. "No one's answering, are they?" he asked. She didn't speak. He walked up beside her, carefully avoiding the floating thing that might dissolve his shoes, and said, "Okay. Look, I know you're all warrior queen of the cosmos and everything, but you're not alone in this. I mean, I'm not much, but I've got a car, some duct tape, a dog with excellent intuition, and an ex who still owes me her Netflix password. That's a start, right?" Valira looked at him. Really looked. And then the relay beeped. One light, then another. 7 total. Her eyes widened. They heard. A voice echoed through the chamber. Garbled, ancient, speaking in layered frequencies. Then, "Queen. Coordinates received. Hold position. Extraction protocol initiated." Valira exhaled. "They're coming." Ryan grinned. "Great. Friends with spaceships. Can they bring tacos?" But then the chamber shuddered. The iris at the top began to close. Not because of them, but because something else had entered the building. Something heavy. Something humming. Valira turned, cloak flaring. "They found us again," Ryan groaned. "I swear, if this ends in another blown-up parking lot, I'm switching to Uber." There wasn't supposed to be elevator music in a secret alien relay chamber. Yet somehow, as the ground vibrated and warning glyphs pulsed along the walls, a strange, overly cheerful jingle began playing, like someone had connected the apocalypse to a discount hold line. Ryan glanced upward, blinking at the ceiling speakers. Did we just get put on hold? By doom? Valira didn't answer. She was already moving, her staff sparking with crimson energy as she circled the glowing relay core. The 7 points of light on the console pulsed faster now, like they were syncing with her heartbeat or maybe the world's most dangerous strobe party. Her expression remained calm, but Ryan had now spent enough time with her to recognize the subtle twitch in her jaw that meant, "I'm about to vaporize something." From above, heavy footfalls echoed. They didn't sound like boots. They sounded like impact, like someone had attached jackhammers to a war god's shoes. Ryan backed toward the entry tunnel, Thor at his heels, tail stiff, growling in a low register that sounded more lion than Labrador. "So," Ryan said, "what's the over-under on whether this is another murder mech or just an intergalactic Girl Scout looking for donations?" Valira tapped a panel and summoned a secondary barrier over the iris entrance, a translucent dome that shimmered like oil on glass. "Neither. It's a tracker-class stalker, not a machine, not exactly alive either," Ryan groaned. "So zombie robot bounty hunter. Got it. Classic Tuesday." Something struck the outer dome. The entire room flexed like it had been poked by a thunder god. A shape above the dome flickered into view. At first glance, it looked like a centaur built by a drunk engineer obsessed with knives. Too many limbs, a face like a cracked mirror, and a red orb where its heart should be. Its claws dragged across the dome with a screech that sounded like a dentist threatening your soul. The dome began to fracture. "Any chance your friends arrive early?" Ryan asked, backing up. "I accelerated the signal," Valira replied. "They'll breach atmosphere in 20 minutes. "Cool, cool, cool," Ryan nodded. "Just enough time to die creatively." Thor barked once, then bolted toward a console and began pawing at it frantically. Ryan blinked. "What is he doing?" Valira paused, watching. "He recognizes the resonance frequency of the gate. He's trying to activate the auxiliary defense grid." Ryan frowned. "Since when can he do that?" "Since I spilled some of my blood on his fur," she said, like this was a totally normal thing. "He's a partial conduit now." Ryan stared. "You turned my dog into a security system?" "He volunteered," Valira said with a shrug. "Liar. He can't even volunteer not to eat used tissues." Thor let out a triumphant bark as a glyph lit up under his paw. From the floor, 4 floating orbs rose and locked into a defensive rotation around the relay's core. They hummed with energy. Outside the dome, the stalker paused, then roared. It dove, all blade limbs in rage. The orbs fired. Crimson beams lanced into the thing's torso, slowing it, burning through its outer shell. But it kept coming. Ryan grabbed a metal rod from a wall bracket, probably ceremonial, probably sacred, probably not meant to be used as a bat, and held it up. "If anyone's keeping score, I'd like it noted I'm about to hit a space demon with alien rebar." Valira touched her staff to the dome. "I'm opening it." "Wait, what?" "We need to draw it in, inside the defenses." "That's a terrible plan. It's like inviting a shark into your bathtub." "It will follow me," she said simply. "It wants the core, and me." Ryan muttered, "I knew I should have gone to dental school." The dome flickered, cracked open with a hiss. The stalker dropped in like death on a trampoline, limbs thrashing, blades screeching against the floor. The orbs fired again, now at point-blank range, carving through armor. But the thing lunged at Valira anyway. Ryan moved on instinct. He swung the rod with everything he had. It bounced off the stalker's flank like a spoon off a tank. "Okay," he gasped, stumbling back. "I regret nothing and everything simultaneously." The creature spun, one of its arms slicing toward him. Thor leapt, howled, and bit down on the limb. Hard. The stalker shrieked, stumbling. Valira raised her staff and struck the floor. The pulse was instant. The glyphs flared white. The air thickened like gravity had hiccuped. The relay itself seemed to breathe. And then the creature began to unravel. Its limbs twisted in on themselves. Its orb pulsed red, then blue, then black. A void opened in its chest. Not a hole, but an absence. Like something had deleted a chunk of reality and forgot to patch the error. The stalker folded in, piece by piece, screaming in a language that didn't need sound. Then it was gone. The room was silent again. The elevator music had finally stopped. Ryan collapsed into a pile of ancient cushions, panting. Thor licked his face like a proud soldier. Valira knelt beside the relay. Her hands trembled slightly now. "More will come," Ryan wheezed. "Do they also come with exploding limbs and razor smiles? Or was that the deluxe version?" She looked at him. "That was the scout." He groaned and flopped back onto the cushions. "Next time, let's just call for pizza and play Monopoly." A soft tone filled the air. The relay core pulsed. A hologram appeared, blurry, half-formed, but humanoid. Its voice echoed through the room. "Extraction ship entering low orbit. Prepare for beacon convergence." Valira stood. "It's time." Ryan sat up, still breathing hard. "Wait, we're just leaving?" "You don't have to come," she said. "But if you stay, they'll find you again. They'll tear apart your world to erase what you've seen." He stared at her, at Thor, who wagged his tail like this was the best day of his life. Then he looked up at the relay ceiling, where alien stars glowed faintly through the cracks of reality. "Well," he said, "my lease is already ruined. I've got like 3 pairs of clean socks, and honestly, I've always wanted to see space." Valira blinked, surprised. Then she smiled. "Then come. There's a war to win." Ryan stood. "Can I drive?" "No." "Worth a shot." The moment they stepped through the convergence beam, Ryan realized two things. First, teleportation did not feel like the movies made it look. There was no elegant shimmering, no smooth fade out, fade in. It was more like being swallowed by a blender made of starlight and regret. Second, he'd forgotten to lock his car. Not that it mattered now. The Civic was probably a pile of smoldering scraps surrounded by confused raccoons. And Ryan had bigger problems, like the fact that he was now standing inside what appeared to be a cathedral built by sentient geometry. The walls curved in impossible directions. The air tasted faintly of cinnamon and ozone. And somewhere far above, giant crystal constructs rotated on gravitational axes that made his inner ear beg for retirement. Thor, unfazed as ever, trotted ahead down a translucent ramp and immediately began sniffing what looked suspiciously like a hovering jellyfish in a butler's outfit. The jellyfish made a polite dinging sound and floated backward like it had trained in etiquette. Valira stepped onto a dais and extended her staff. The ship hummed, not in an engine-roaring kind of way, more like a planetary heartbeat, steady and resonant. The architecture responded, shifting around her presence like it recognized her command, which it probably did, Ryan thought. She was the queen. The butler jellyfish led them down a corridor that seemed to elongate based on their speed. Ryan tried walking faster once. The corridor got longer. He slowed down. It shortened again. He muttered, "Oh, good." A ship with a sense of humor. Valira didn't look back. It adapts, keeps threats contained in localized folds. So it's like a living maze that's also a spaceship. Cool. Totally not nightmare fuel. They entered a chamber that looked like the inside of a timepiece the size of a stadium. Thousands of orbs floated midair, each displaying shifting visuals, planets, stars, fleets in formation. One of them was labeled Earth in sleek alien script. The readout showed North America, but the location pinged red. Ryan said, pointing. Is that like a space fire alarm for my house? Valira studied it. That's a bounty marker. You've been tagged. Ryan blinked. I have a what now? Tagging is how the syndicate tracks priority targets, she said, swiping her hand through the air to pull up more data. It means they now believe you to be valuable. Ryan looked at Thor, who sneezed on a control panel. Because I adopted a cosmic vampire and my dog is now a part-time security system. Yes. Wonderful. Do I at least get space dental? Thor sneezed again, this time triggering a display that began showing blueprints of a device labeled Project Hemlock. Valira stiffened. Her hand hovered near her staff. Ryan leaned in. That sounds friendly. It's not. It's the weapon they used to destroy the Androsian throne fleet. It's how they ended my rule. A planetary nullifier. Eats stars like sugar cubes. Ryan whistled. And let me guess, they're building a new one. Probably bigger, probably with more unnecessarily evil upgrades like laser tentacles and ominous theme music. It's already complete, she said, and they're sending it to Earth. There was a pause. Ryan coughed. Okay, I know I said I wanted to see space, but I didn't mean explode my planet kind of sightseeing. The Syndicate doesn't just erase threats, she said. They erase memories of threats. If they fire Hemlock, not only will Earth burn, it will be forgotten. Ryan sat heavily on a floating bench. Wow, that's one way to cancel a party. A second hologram flickered to life, this time a face. Not quite human, symmetrical, beautiful, cold. Golden skin, mechanical eyes, lips that didn't quite move with the words. Valira, you continue to meddle in what has already been erased. Return to dust, or be corrected. Valira stared at the projection with a calm fury that made Ryan's spine want to file a restraining order. You're late, Krian. I expected your threats weeks ago. You no longer have allies. I have one. Krian's gaze slid to Ryan. Then with the sort of smirk only someone with nanowire teeth could manage, he said, a primitive ape with a pet? How far you fallen? Ryan stood up. Hey, I'll have you know I graduated community college with a solid 2.9 GPA and once beat a guy in laser tag named Laserfist69. I am not primitive. Krian didn't respond. He simply vanished. Ryan exhaled. He's going to be a recurring problem, isn't he? Yes. Great, I was hoping for a space nemesis. Really rounds out the bucket list. Valira turned to him. The ship is preparing to warp, but we can't outrun them. Not forever. The only way to stop this is to destroy Hemlock. Ryan rubbed his eyes. And I assume that's not just a press a button and yay, no more space bomb situation. She gave a grim smile. The core must be dismantled manually, and the core is alive. Ryan tilted his head. Alive? Like sentient AI? Or actual throbbing, heart-beating, thinking kind of alive? The latter. It's an echo mind, a stitched consciousness of a dying star, mad and caged. Cool, cool, cool. So we need to go reason with a vengeful star ghost. Yes, Thor barked once. Ryan nodded. All right, but we stop for snacks first. I'm not negotiating with stellar horror on an empty stomach. They reached the command bridge, which resembled a planetarium held together by magnetic fields and crystal threads. Valira stepped into a cradle at the center, closed her eyes and began whispering instructions in that same strange tongue that made Ryan's nose bleed if he listened too hard. The ship surged forward, stars bent, time hiccuped. Somewhere in the back, a vending unit pinged to life. Ryan grabbed something that looked like a glowing granola bar and handed Thor what appeared to be a packet of sentient jerky. The ship entered warp, and the stars ahead turned red. The first thing Ryan noticed when they dropped out of warp was the silence. Not the ordinary kind, like a library or a night in the woods, but a heavy cosmic silence, as if the universe itself had paused mid-sentence and was now holding its breath. Ahead of them, suspended in the gravitational cradle of a dying star, loomed Hemlock. It looked less like a weapon and more like a cathedral built by nightmares. Black stone and glowing circuitry twisted together in impossible architecture, rotating like a gyroscope with a grudge. Tendrils of solar plasma arced from the nearby star and kissed its hull, feeding it. Ryan squinted. Is that thing humming? It sings to itself, Valira said, her voice tight. It remembers every world it's erased. Ryan took a step closer to the viewport, frowned. Is it weird that I feel like it's judging me? It is. That's its defense mechanism. The echo mind scans all intruders and feeds them their worst regrets. Ryan winced. Okay, so I should definitely not have skipped filing my taxes in 2022. Thor let out a tiny whimper and pawed at the floor. Ryan bent and gave him a scratch behind the ears. Buddy, if you see your own tail yelling at you, just remember it's not real. The ship glided forward on silent thrusters, bypassing Hemlock's outer sensors, using Valira's old Queen override codes. They landed on one of the inner spires where an entry hatch shimmered open like a yawning mouth. As they stepped out, the floor beneath their boots pulsed. Ryan tried not to think about whether it was breathing. The corridor twisted around them, adjusting with every step. It wasn't a place made to be walked. It was made to be feared. And yet, Valira walked steadily forward, her long ears twitching slightly, her staff humming low. Ryan followed, Thor at his side, both of them watching shadows that weren't quite attached to anything. Halfway to the core chamber, they passed a wall covered in faces, not sculptures, not projections. Actual, preserved impressions of people who'd tried to reach the core before. Ryan stared at one that looked suspiciously like it was mouthing, "Don't trust the broccoli," and decided he was going to skip dinner for a week. You said the core was alive, Ryan whispered. Is it like a person or more like a cosmic mood swing? It used to be a star, Valira said. Now it's a soul trapped in machinery, and it's furious. Because it was used to kill? Because it was promised peace and given war. The final door opened. Inside was nothing like Ryan expected. No control panels, no blinking lights, no massive glowing red buttons that said, "Press me to stop death." Instead, the room was shaped like an amphitheater, and at its center floated a pulsing, blue-white mass of energy, like a heartbeat wrapped in lightning. The Echo Mine. Ryan blinked. Okay, definitely not OSHA compliant. The moment they stepped closer, A voice filled the chamber. Why have you come? It wasn't a question. It was a reckoning. Valira stepped forward. To end the cycle. You helped build the cycle. I was blind, she said, but I'm not anymore. The energy flared. A ripple of sound hit Ryan like guilt on a Monday. He staggered, saw flashes, his childhood dog running away. That one time he lied to his grandma, the day he said he'd go to the gym and didn't. He straightened. Okay, enough with the emotional guilt buffet. We get it. You're angry. Who isn't? But anger alone isn't a plan. The echo mind pulsed. You are frail, mortal, insignificant. And yet here I am arguing with a stellar ghost, Ryan said. So maybe I'm a little more significant than you think. Valira turned to him, startled. But the pulse in the core changed, less jagged now. Curious. Ryan stepped forward slowly. You've been used, weaponized. You don't want that, right? No. Then don't be their tool. Be your own choice. Shut yourself down. Silence. Then, I cannot. I am entangled. Valira raised her staff. Then let me untangle you. She drove the staff into the platform. It sent a ripple through the air. Old codes, queen's blood, ancient authority buried in genes and grief. The echo mind screamed, not in pain, but in release. The core began to collapse in on itself, not destructively, but like it was folding into piece. The light dimmed, softened. The walls shook. The entire structure moaned as its power drained. Ryan looked around. Does this thing have an exit strategy? Valira smiled. Hold on to me. Oh, now you say that. She pressed a glyph on her wrist. The convergence beam snatched them out just as the platform disintegrated. They rematerialized aboard the Queen's ship, orbiting far from the collapsing structure of Hemlock. The display showed the weapon folding in on itself, its energy bleeding back into the star it had been stolen from. A soft chime confirmed the shutdown. No explosions. Just silence. Ryan exhaled. Back in the observation room, Thor jumped into his lap and promptly drooled all over his shirt. Ryan scratched his ears, not even caring that the fur was half-charged with cosmic energy. Valira sat beside him. It's done, she said. He nodded. So what now? She looked out the window at the stars. Now. We rebuild. My people are scattered. The galaxy is fractured. But there is hope again. Ryan glanced around. Does rebuilding include me? Or am I getting dropped back off at Earth with a t-shirt that says, I survived the Star War and all I got was this lousy shirt? You've seen more than most mortals ever dream of. You've faced monsters and madness. You can go home, or you can stay. Help us chart a better path. Ryan leaned back, thought about his old life, jobless, aimless, with a fridge that only made weird humming sounds and condiments that expired in 2019. Then he looked at Thor. Do they have snacks? Valira smiled. Endless. Then I'm in. Thor barked once, as if sealing the deal. And somewhere far away, the stars began to sing again. The end.